Welcome. This is the Daily Dharma. My name is Dina. Thank you so much for joining in today. Come on in and have a seat by the fire. And let's see what the cards want to talk about today. The code cards here are intended to kind of take the best possible outcomes based on the energies at play within the collective, in our personal lives, etc. Help us to integrate those energies into our lives. All right, we'll go with that. Divine Feminine, coming out first, number 21. We're all familiar with the Divine Feminine energy. This says, the Divine Feminine energy supports our receptive, nurturing, and soft side, allowing it to express itself openly and helping us to connect to our intrinsic understanding of our connection to all of creation. So this theme has been coming out a bit. Yesterday we had the Shakti energy and the ocean and earth cards coming out together. It's interesting. Underneath we have heart chakra, consciousness, solar plexus, third eye, change, and I knew it would show itself. The divine masculine is a little bit buried at the other end of the spectrum, so to speak. So it looks like, to me, we'll get into what the feminine is experiencing per se, and this does not need to be externalized people in your life, you versus them. It can be internal, masculine and feminine, and everyone that we perceive of is actually some type of reflection of our own energies anyways. So our masculine essence then is going through some changes. The intuition is expanding, the heart is expanding, creating a resurgence of the creative spark. So it's as if there's been a lull or a quiet phase, and almost that there may have been some dull experiences, or maybe even bordering on depression or full-fledged depression, or lower energies at play, challenging circumstance. But for whatever reason, we've got the consciousness card here. Yeah, okay. So yeah, there's a shift in consciousness here, an upgrade, perhaps an awakening of consciousness, the deeper consciousness at play, where perhaps right below that we've got passion, empowerment, and discernment. It's like the masculine within us has a powerful, passionate side that wants to go and experience and be, and even have that validation process at play, where we can exert our authority and see the direct result of having influenced something, for better or for worse. It's an empowering circumstance to parts of us that feels like, if I take action, then there will be a result, there will be a change. Because sometimes it's like, I don't care what happens, just if something could shift, it would alleviate some pressure and some stagnant energy. So there's that urge right here to just push something through at all costs, or to let's keep moving on. I want to not get too far into that. What's coming out on the feminine side? We've got dynamic. Let's see how that's going to play in just a moment here. 23, 27, fertility. Okay. And romantic love. All right. Two more. Transition. Sacral chakra. Okay, so the feminine side of things is working on the core beliefs, the self-beliefs, the resonance, the alignments that have been at play in our life, whether we're aligning with other people's agendas, other people's needs and wants, the feminine within any person can become a little bit, dare I say, codependent on others, almost displacing and maybe even avoiding their own personal successes and efforts in order to draw in response from others. It's I want to call that a misuse of our energy, even though it's a very common behavior pattern. I am really roasting by this fire here. I may need to move the table forward just a bit. We don't want to spontaneously combust on camera. I apologize for the noise, folks. That was at 555. All right. That's so interesting. The Father card is coming out here and the Maiden. So these two together, and look at the color pattern here between the two. I see this rose in the romantic love. I'm seeing that many, whether masculine or feminine, there's this emergence of the heart space that depends upon more than the mother in this circumstance. Today, it wants to focus upon the father, and our mothers and fathers both tend to have both expressions, just like we have both our assertive and our receptive sides. So does each parent have the capacity to set proper limits for the child, to create safe environments, and to nurture the child. So we don't want to have socialized gender roles influence this necessarily. It's about more than the gender of the parenting that's happening. It's more about the necessity of the parents to leave the nest, to go and seek their own personal successes and their own money, revenue, resources. They have to go out and hunt and gather. And unfortunately, at this point in the society, that hunting and gathering is no longer done in the backyard and out in the yard, where there is that home connectivity at play. But this is more the workplace and the home place being at odds, and the stressors of the external being somehow brought back into the nest, and certain lack of guidance, lack of emotional support that may have created a certain, the word frozen is coming to mind, and the card in this deck that's called gestation, what is it? Winter something, gestation period. Dances on one foot and balancing act and fire. Very interesting here. So okay, with those two, I'm getting that there's a lot of passions at play here. There's a lot of desire. There's a lot of goals, aspirations, and there's a lot of life still craved to be experienced here. And speaking of the fire, bear with me, folks. It's got to be over 90 degrees right in front of this firebox. So I'm getting that the fire represents those, the resentments and the misplaced ideals of the parents that have left the wanting, the longing happening in the child, the innocent child. And now there's this new circumstances to engage the heart, and there's a deepening understanding of our own softening process. So let's see how this shift, this transition in self-worth is coming through. So perhaps then we're being told that this maiden energy, this childlike energy, the inner feminine, our emotional waters from sacral chakra have been influenced by different, I want to say, toxins, residues. You all, is this day going to be like this? There was literally a little bug that just landed in between my glasses and my eyeball. So yeah, there's something coming up here where there's an uncomfortable circumstance. There's a little bit of distance. There's a little bit of unknowing of how to create the deeper relating, the deeper connectivity in a relationship. And it has to do with the way that we internalized our parents' responsiveness to us at 11:11. And so this masculine essence here within us that wants change at any cost, wants to pursue those passions, perhaps has channeled some of that energy into physicality, whether that's sexuality, magnetizing potential partners or relationships, or just deferred into some type of exercise, some type of physical goal or physical striving that can happen through more of the intellectual pursuits as well. But there's some type of, perhaps for some, gaslighting. The inner gaslighter is the worst of all culprits and the most dangerous to our own self-image and the way that we can openly respond to the invitations that are set forth by others in our lives. So even if we're in a relationship that has been long-standing, doesn't need to be intimate relationship, can be friends or otherwise, there's tends to be for many a masking of the feminine essence, and I want to say this opposite ways. There's that conflicting energy again, two sides of the coin of the father. The feeling of either self-judgment or judgment of the parents, which then becomes muddled and mired in our self-inner speak here, is shifting and changing, and we're understanding perhaps where those limitations can be surpassed. And it seems like we have some type of a blooming of inner self-love. This is that glow up energy. And when I say glow up, I don't mean that somebody needs to go out and go to a bunch of salons and do a whole makeover process. The glow up is an internal process. It's the reignition of that inner spark energy. And so we have both change and transition here. So the feminine aspects of ourselves, it's being asked to flow a little bit more easily without being tethered to expectations that aren't in our best interest in some way, or by the limerence or romanticizing of things that aren't for us in the same type of way. So there's a discernment here that the feminine is moving through old family dynamics, I feel, to re-identify some of the go-to emotions and what lies beneath that. So we can look at things, for instance, like pride, ego, anger is a big one. Anger can easily be a go-to emotion that feels more powerful than shame or guilt, and it can be our go-to emotion so that we don't go into the depths of any type of depression or self-loathing. But what we dismiss and what we ignore continues to simmer below the surface. And these are the wounds of the parents' parents and their parents, the duality that happens with the greater intention of providing for and protecting is the very thing that the individual on the other end of this starts to develop this longing, and longing feels like either the questioning of the value or the questioning of the connection here. And so I'm seeing that the feminine is going through this glow up energy, reawakening to both those romanticized and wounded patterns, and transitioning out of this. And the masculine is upgrading and shifting their ability to tune into the needs of the feminine. So reawakening to the intentions behind the actions, or the arising justification is being shown to us for what it is. It's a fear or an esteeming, a comparison or a judgment that needs to be worked out in some type of a way. I think that that makes good sense for everybody. So we've got Fortune's Wheel, Luck, and Right Timing at the bottom of the deck. Gorgeous. 23 is the same number as Dynamic. So we're being asked to look again at that. So I'll just read it. That usually brings up something here. The frequency of dynamic supports our ability to harmonize between the layers and aspects of different origin and frequency. It helps us to put together a reality that is made up of many different elements, both familiar and completely new, with ease, grace, and great joy. Okay, so that's the part that I'm missing. So during times of great transition, we need something somehow to ground into at times. And any new relationship or any transition or changing ideology or belief pattern or emotional connectivity with another, or the urge to connect on a deeper level, these things are kind of shaking loose what we believe, what our family of origin story became for us, and what our strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats have shown to us, what we've learned from our engagement with our environment, versus another person's experience being completely different. Even if their circumstance was very mirrored, they can still become something quite different than us. And even if we begin the same and there's a mirroring, then partners and people that have been close can, whether they drive each other away or just grow away from each other, others can grow together and change together. So there's something here about the coming and going. I'm seeing this zipper energy, like this father energy, coming together and going back apart. And the zipper, this is a bit of a something else, but the zipper reminds me of DNA and how we replicate our DNA. And the long story short is that the emotional frequency that dominates our entire vessel and aura is then the lightning strike that is at whatever frequency, whether highly active and strumming many strings of the DNA for replication, or whether it's really a lower vibrational, slower oscillation, it activates less of the DNA. And so this overstimulation concept that's been coming through the last few days is perhaps this change stimulating both individuals in many different ways. And then the changing, shifting, transitioning emotional frequency is then activating us in different ways. So we're seeing things in different ways. We're experiencing new things that we have not experienced before. I'm splitting the deck here and I see Sweat Lodge. So maybe something's making us quite nervous here, where we're being asked to look into the details of something. Maybe it's our past. or upbringing or into the other individual. Maybe there's this conversation that needs to be had between individuals. But it seems like this is the eye of the dragon. We've got this big dragon energy this year with the Chinese Lunar New Year shifting recently, and it's Earth Dragon. And this seems like with Earth and Dragon together, it seems to be a shaking loose, a dusting off, letting dust settle, and then the cleanup that needs to happen afterwards. It's a tending of the earth. I think that these themes are going to come up personally for us and for others, whether property becomes something of importance in our lives, buying or selling or moving, time in nature. The sweat lodge seems to be, speaking of sweating, it seems to be putting us into a hot circumstance where the flames are very close. You know, it's very symbolic of having to walk the straight and narrow through this eye of the needle here, and getting through that. That's where we come into this luck and right timing. Fortune's wheel. Yeah, there's more at play here. And I feel like I missed something here I was going to say just now. Yeah, moving beyond the comfort zone. This is almost like walking into a meeting, walking into a signing of documents, whether house buying or wedding or divorce or some type of major change, a promotion, a public speaking engagement. It's like taking that big breath and then walking into it knowing that you're here to learn, succeed, or fail. And then we split it to covenant. Sacred contract number 7. There's definitely the potential that someone is signing some specific documents, and this could happen on the other side of the veil during our dreams, where we're shifting. I've talked about before that sometimes I would have these dreams where I would engage in this big round table discussion with a bunch of guides and elders and community members, and everybody would be renegotiating, almost like some kind of stock exchange floor where everybody's putting in, buying and selling and transitioning, and there's this crunch, this dynamic exchange of people coming together and people leaving, of DNA that used to jive now not being activated in the same way as it moves through our body in a completely new and unprecedented way, perhaps, or reawakening something that was perhaps buried because of some type of previous circumstance, possibly having to do with the way that we assert ourselves, and do we feel like we are creating that positive change with our energy. And I watched something this morning that keeps influencing this read, and it was A Soft White Underbelly. It's a great one if you want to get into the inner psychology of individuals, or if you're just an energetic voyeur of what makes people tick. This individual, a young male, was identifying as an incel, where you're unable to find the partner. There's the desire, but there's this barrier. And then and part of that is that they also, and I don't know if this is specific to males, but where they also exhibit resentment and hatred towards the feminine, sometimes even escalating into violence. And there are so many things that I could talk about in this dynamic, but what's mostly coming to mind is the militant father dynamic, and whether our fathers were militant. The socialized ideal of the masculine is someone who is dominant, authoritative, highly respected. Their word is gold. They are the king of the castle. And therefore, when we become parents, when we become lovers and partners, there's this idea that if we the duality of this is that we can either be predisposed towards either side of this, where we can, many people are like, well, my parents did a great job. They had these shortcomings, but it's okay. And then they kind of gloss over it and don't deal with it in that way, that there was something wrong with that. But then the other individual might come out of that saying, they did all of these things wrong. I was left alone to my own devices. I didn't get that guidance. And therefore, whether it's conscious or not, there is a polarization. If you are going to be this militant father, I cannot respect the choices that you've made, so I am going to be your oppositional energy. I'm going to be everything that you are not, and I'm going to represent all of your repressed emotions. And to the extent that we can identify and air out the repressed emotions of the parents that are now being subverted through our energy, is really, really masking something very beautiful that's under the surface of our own energy. And if this is resonating, there's a new opportunity to break those contracts in the way that we say, I have learned everything that I came to learn. I'm going to sign on the dotted line that I release you from this contract, and I'm going to identify the fact that now I want to be a clear and perfect channel for my emotional fluctuations, and in that way be the master of my own inner temple, and my own power is in my own hands. And as soon as I no longer need to be your mirror, I stop trying to heal you and heal this lost soul part of myself that I've allowed to be entangled and entrapped with this other individual. And I pull that responsibility back to myself to say, if you can't deal with this, that's on you, but I'm not going to be your opposite. I am going to be my center. And that's the right timing of the awakening. It's that orange eye with the tiny black pupil that I saw yesterday in all three eyes of that Kali. What was it called? Juma Vita? Vida? Anyways, yes, it's talking about moving beyond any troublesome circumstances and allowing ourselves to be supported through the flow, to recognize that there are gifts in the shadows that we can utilize and move beyond. I'm running a little bit shy on time. Let's close it out with one of these Kuan Kali deck cards, splitting it to Amaryllis Lute and Blossoms of the Sky Dancer. 34. I thought we had that on. We've got 43 and 34. One more time. Gates of Heaven, number 12. Amaryllis Lute. So Amaryllis Lute is about the rising vibration and being able to emit the higher frequency sounds that are buried deep within our soul. And the higher we get, the more authentic and expressive those emotions that want to bubble forth come. It's like that spontaneous cry I'm hearing that maybe it's something about like in the darkness in your own bedroom, no one is around, or in your shower, you're cleansing and thoughts are arising, and then this spontaneous bubble of emotion comes forward. And I don't know if this is connected to the passing away of the older generations or people that are close to you, or if this is just representing the death of a vibrational resonance in your conscious awareness. But there is definitely a shift of those lower energies, and perhaps the ghosts of the past, the ghosts of our parents' past or other individuals that we're dealing with. It's that death doula idea again, where whether it's the people that have injured or we have injured that we're working with we will sometimes bring others into our lives that need us to help them either to reflect or to show them a different way, a different perspective that allows them to see through their own deceit and make that difficult transition to cast away what doesn't belong. And I don't know if this is a reflection of a Dan Winter thing that I follow him on YouTube. Check him out if you want. But the transition between matter and spirit has also been here, like us bringing the spiritual ideals in. And then also now we're hearing about the passing through to the other side of the veil, having embodied matter and being able to assist the spirit to pass through that eye of the needle to do the inner work necessary to allow their soul to eradicate karmic patterns. And the more that we can help everybody else, well, first we have to help ourselves, but the more that we do our work and help other individuals, lost compass, getting back to integrity, helping other individuals come back to that awareness point, assist all of us ultimately as collective karma becomes resolved. And as the karma becomes resolved, we're all able to interact in a different way. Of course, there's others out there creating their own karma as we speak. Tai Chi rising. But we can only do what we can do. So this Tai Chi rising card is 32. We've got the 23 here and the 23 here. Dynamic Fortune's Wheel. It's seeing through what has come to pass. And there's definitely money on the table. It keeps showing itself. It's definitely spiritual prosperity. It's definitely relationship happiness and creative spark and passion reignited. People reinvesting in things that really truly matter, using the example of those that have abandoned us as evidence that we need to not abandon others, that we do not want to follow the oppressor down their rabbit hole, or the wounded individuals, or the ones that had the frozen heart space, but we want to be able to engage in this fiery thaw energy of investing in that inner spark, investing in passion instead of anger. And I don't only mean, obviously, the sexual passion, but passions on every level, what lights us up, what makes us tick. And Tai Chi rising is all about that sacred energy, that soul spark being activated, engaged, and rising up through us. And it might take body movement. Body movement is a sacred way to move stagnant and trapped energy through our body, whether it's physical touch, tapping, Tai Chi, some type of martial art, or yoga. So many people get a lot out of yoga, or just kind of moving and